It's Richard Walls with his performance of CLUBMARTYR. CLUBMARTYR was a performance that he brought to Shoot Festival 2014, and it won our Artist Development Award, which is a prize for one company, and we're doing it. Interactive audience. So please welcome to the stage Mr. Richard Walls.
July 2012, Bastille Day. I am standing naked in the shower of a hotel room in Paris when I turn and find the large black-haired Canadian woman standing naked in the bath basin with me. A surprise. She's supposed to be in the other room having sex with my American friend Alex. And apparently Alex is vomiting out of a window, so now she wants to have sex with me in place of my American friend, who at this moment bursts into the bathroom, starts vomiting into the toilet and screaming, "Oh my God, pretend I'm not even here!" And she's bending over like a perpetual motion bird and backing up towards me, step by step by step by step. And that is how I got chlamydia. And come 2014 at the clinic, this nurse in my ear, "You mean to tell me you've had chlamydia for 2 years? That you never even thought to have a test?" I had no symptoms. "You had no condoms." I did have condoms. "Then why didn't you wear a condom?" "Because my condoms were in the other room." "We were in the shower." "Then why didn't you leave the shower, go into the other room, put on a condom, and then have sex with her?" "Why?" "Because there's no story in that." What am I supposed to say? "Hey guys, gather round. Let me tell you about the protected sex I just had." Did I mention it was in a bed? Fuck no, it was the story I was having sex with. And the story was in the shower with my best friend vomiting in the bowl beside me. Wow. I'm afraid your story has just given you chlamydia. Wrong! No, the chlamydia has given me the story. Look. Let me tell you, back in 2010, when I was living in Ithaca, New York, beautiful Ithaca, New York, with its gorges and its waterfalls, my American friend Alex and I used to head down to Mooney's nightclub for some scram time. Now, scram time was the hour before Mooney's closed, and all the lost souls were still out there on the dance floor just waiting for somebody to pick them up. Well, this one night I bumped into this rather lost-looking woman, and I immediately asked her what university she goes to, because this sentence is long enough to get my accent across. "Oh my God," she says. "Where are you from?" I say, "Me. I'm from Coventry. It's about 100 miles north of London." She says, "You don't have herpes, do you?" I say, "No." She says, "Chlamydia?" And I say, "No, because I didn't back then." She says, "Do you want to have sex in the back of my car?" And so we're in the taxi on the way back to her so we can have sex in the back of said car, when all of a sudden she's very upset. She's upset, she says, because she hasn't had sex with somebody special in a long time. Which upsets me, naturally, because who the fuck am I? And I know that she knows this. I know that maybe tomorrow night in maybe the same cab, she may be telling some other guy the same thing. And then maybe another and another, because, truth be told, I could and should be saying the same thing. I should tell her how I slept 25 steps 3-4 times a day to get to the mailbox to see whether Talitha has been replying to the love letters I've been sending to her. Knowing that she hasn't, because she's over there and I'm over here. Because we're different people now, which is to say she thinks I'm a bastard, and I am a bastard, which is to say that I never delivered. For her or for me. I should stop the cab. I should say, "It's been wonderful, this 10 or so minutes here with you. But you'll have to forgive me, I'm having something of an epiphany." But I don't. Because my American friend Alex and I are going to Canada in the morning, and I need something funny to tell him on the way. And the following night, as Alex and I come tumbling out of Margaritaville, Niagara Falls, having demolished the Nacho Mountain, Alex turns to me and he says, "You know what your problem is, Wolsey? You want to be a playwright more than you want to write plays. You want to hang around Mooney's looking for some scrum time? Tell me, how many words have you written this week?" And I say, "Alex, that's not how it works." And he says, "Of course it is. You grab a coffee, you sit down and you bleed out." I say, "No, Alex, it isn't like that. It's like the American poet Ruth Stone. You know how she didn't write poems, she caught them. You know, she's just out in Virginia working the fields, and she can feel and hear this poem coming at her from across the landscape, and the ground beneath her begins to shake. And when this happens, she must run like hell to the back of the house to get to some paper and a pen, so that when this poem thunders through her, she can grab it onto the page. Because if she isn't fast enough, this poem will pass through her and continue off across the landscape looking for, in her words, another poet. And there are moments, Alex, there are times when she's not quite fast enough. She's looking for the paper and the pen, and this poem passes through her, but she reaches out and she grabs it by the tail, and she is pulling it back inside her body whilst having finally found the paper and the pen. She is transcribing it, but backwards, from the last word to the first. And I'm telling you, Alex, there too will come a time when I am stood before Talitha's script in hand, her glad blue eyes welling up in front of me, and I will say this. August 2012, Johnny's Bar, Greenwich Avenue, Manhattan, New York, New York. They say you're never present in a place until you've left it and want to go back. I can't wait to write home and tell everyone what a great time I'm having in the 2010 New York. How slick and slimy everything is under the lights. Because in the 2012 New York, somebody's climbed the Chrysler building, hit the dimmer switch, and turned the whole city down a shade. I picked my head up and asked the barman how long I've been asleep. He says, "Kid, this is the first time I've seen you awake." I've got the drums from Paul Simon's Graceland coming in from the left, and a vision of Jessica Ennis on the TV set on the right. "What are you doing here?" the barman says. "You've got the whole world looking to be in London right now, and you catch a plane out here? Is our Olympic coverage that good?" "Yeah, you tell him, Frank. You tell him that nobody does the London Olympics like America does the London Olympics." "Hey kid, you ain't looking so good. You want to get yourself the red eye over to California. Get yourself some of the California Poo-Tang. Brings back some of the California Poo-Tang. Or better, Frank, how about a cubicle down at the bus station? Port Authority bus station, kid, you been? Taking a piss, listened in, you know, listened, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Because they're all in there, every cubicle a different guy, jacking off, stroking his bishop. It's the place, kid. You're sinking through the ceiling and you leave all that's tugging at you there in the bowl." I say, "Fuck you." He says, "Nah. Fuck you, kid. You ain't never been on that Greyhound. Twice a year upstate so to see the kids. Never arrived to find some guy with his arm around your true love's waist. Never had to say, 'Same time come Christmas? Okay then, goodbye kids, goodbye!' Back onto the bus. Arriving back in New York City so pent up with grief and rage and love, and no other way to exercise it that doesn't involve busting the guy's face in. You innocent. You dewy-eyed klutz. Why don't you pinch that dick of yours and, whilst you're at it, find yourself a different bar, capiche? It's been a long road from Paris, and the showers haven't been anywhere near as good. I've had chlamydia for 28 days, and I'll have it for 715 more. But never in the days to come will chlamydia and I come to know each other the way that Bill Murray and I have come to know each other in the last 14. Or at least that look on his face when Scarlett Johansson is walking back to the elevator at the end of that film. I mean, if I could find Sophia Coppola, I'd tell her. I'd say, Sophia, it happened to me. I was in Japan not 2 weeks ago, and my whole life just turned and walked away from me. But I didn't get my whisper seen, Sophia. I didn't get to whisper anything. So when are we going to make the film, eh? When are we going to make the sequel? I'm at McKenna's on 14th. Barman says, my name's Paddy, how can I help you? I say, Paddy, I want to get laid. I want to get laid and then I want to sleep. And then maybe when I wake up, I won't feel so choked up about having deviated so far in so short a time. But what I'm looking for, Paddy, is some expertise. A roadmap of sorts, where a guy like me can get a girl like that. Do you see what I'm saying, Paddy? Do you get what I mean? He takes a napkin from the bar and the pen from his ear. He writes, throws the napkin away, another napkin, he writes again. By the fourth napkin, he's got this great big smile on his face, and sliding that napkin towards me and putting a Budweiser on top, he says, $20. I say, for a bud? He says, for the napkin. The drink is on the house. But you gotta be cool, man. Slow it down, take some gulps. You gotta ride this thing like it's the Pacific Coast, and you've all the time in the world for those wonderful sights. But more than that, you gotta be sharp. So sharp there's a danger you're gonna cut somebody, and that every glance you give is gonna cut both ways. Back and forth, man, back and forth. And for a time, I am so cool. So cool that at the first place I go to, I'm drinking Hennessy with what can only be described as members of the Broadway Mafia. I mean, one of them has a knife down his inside leg, but his rendition of Somewhere from West Side Story, has me in tears. And at the third place, when the muscle on the door won't let me in, I just say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just head back and tell Paddy at McKenna's on 14th, and you know what, they just swing those doors right open. And come the last place, I'm so smoothed over by mango elderflower bellinis and rum cokes that I've hibernated off in the corner somewhere with my eyes open. And though I'm willing myself to stand up and meander my way to the bar, I can't. And I'm terrified that my remaining years will be spent as a furniture piece in a dive bar with nothing for company but all of the things I did not do or say or write. And just as I'm giving up and reconciling myself to a life which has already passed me by, I feel a cool hand find its way to mine. And that is how I met Kadima. 11 AM, and I'm meeting my American friend Alex at the Museum of Fine Art. You look terrible, he says. I say, Alex, I haven't slept. I've been walking around Central Park for 4 hours with Kadima. Kadima. Has ever a name rang so good and true? Has ever a name held such redemptive power? Great, he says. Did you fuck her? I say, Alex, we just talked. She told me about her travels, I told her about mine. About Los Angeles, San Francisco, the Pacific Coast. He says, did you tell her about Paris? I say, I told her about the Louvre. He says, did you tell her about Japan? And in this moment, I am again paralysed atop Kyoto's Pompon Mountain, 5,888 miles east of Coventry and 679 metres up in the air, with nothing but 3 short steps between Talitha and I, who, having scaled the mountain those 3 short steps ahead of me, finally turns and asks, what now? By which he means what's left to say. What haven't you said, could you say, to change the way of things between us? And to this I have nothing. I appreciate you coming here, she says. You've come a long way. It's difficult sometimes being alone here, knowing there's this potential life somewhere I'm turning away from. Perhaps on the way back down we'll stop somewhere. I don't mind where, we'll just pick a spot and we'll stop. Woolsey, I need you to switch back on, Alex is saying. It's time to go back to work. First, you're going to check out of that shitbag of a hostel you're staying in and check into the Harlem Loft. I've got you a nice room, it has a view, and there'll be flowers waiting for you when you arrive. You head out, get yourself a nice bottle of wine, you come back, grab some sleep, because tonight you are taking Kadima to 200 Orchard Street, a rustic cocktail bar on the Lower East Side. From there to the Rockwood, where you are to be blessed with a sensational set from the equally sensational Jonathan Batiste. From there, a few more bars, a few more drinks, before saying, Kadima, I have the finest bottle of wine my money could buy back at my apartment, and it would be a privilege if you could join me to polish it off. But remember, Wolsey, whatever happens, please, enjoy the music. Now, how do I begin to tell you how good that music was? I mean, John Batiste, the guy's now the band leader on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. But back in 2012, the guy was hungry, you know, real fucking hungry. And it's in the eyes and the fingers and the way the sparks are flying off the keys. And every now and then he'll throw his head back and holler at us for some spontaneous combustion, and by God, we'll give it to him, even though none of us have the remotest idea what that even means. Because here is a guy who knows what it is to be stood in a certain place at a certain time, and to have to run like hell to channel whatever it is, from the air to the fingers to the keys to our ears, and all to be young and alive in New York City on that night with that music and that woman. And in the bar afterwards, Kadima and I tell myself there comes a time when all your stars so late to align just drop right there in front of you. And all that's left to say is, Kadima, it's been wonderful this evening here with you, and it would be a privilege if you could join me for the rest of the evening back at my hotel. One question, she says. Anything, Kadima. What's her name? What? Her name, she says. And how did she become so synonymous with that sadness spread all over your face? And in the long silence that follows, I am aware of honesty, having reached out to embrace me like a long-lost friend I once thought dead. And Kadima appears before me not as some escape, but rather like the last in a long line of ghosts, who, having appeared for just a short time, will go on to leave me grasping to be a somewhat better and more honest man. July 2014, Berlin. It's World Cup final day, and some friends and I are in the strip club. Technically it's more of a bar in which the majority of the people are naked, but until we have a fuller understanding as to why this might be, we decide to keep our own clothes on and put the whole thing down to a sort of pseudo-sexual entertainment. You know, it's funny, you getting chlamydia and all, my friend Bex is saying. To think you flew all that way to Japan to give Talitha your undying love, and had things worked out differently, would have given her chlamydia instead. I mean, it's funny how these things work out for the best. And there's that part of me that realises that I haven't had sex with somebody special in a long time. That of all the chlamydia courtesy messages I sent out, only one replied with the postscript, and apart from that, how are you? It's been too long. But why should they care, I tell myself? You did potentially make them infertile. But in the toilet I think about emailing Talitha, telling her that I contracted it long before I actually did. I mean, it's one way to get back in touch. You should get yourself checked out. How are you? But then I think, fuck the chlamydia, Richard. You're in Berlin. In a matter of hours, a reunified Germany will win the World Cup. 25 years after the fall of the wall. And you're going to be able to say that you were there. That this is your story. This is it, you hear? This is it! And it's at this moment that I realise that the lock won't work. That it's jammed. That I'm stuck in here. That there is a God who's good and just. Who just doesn't let you get away with things like this. What have you done, he says, to deserve this story here today? Didn't I give you opportunity enough? A good woman. Ithaca. Beautiful Ithaca, New York, with its gorges and its waterfalls. Paris. Osaka. Kyoto. Los Angeles. San Francisco. New York. Springsteen in Toronto. New Year's in DC. 2 years in London. Springsteen in Coventry. And how many words in all that time? How many good words? How many times have you written the end and meant it? This is the end. You in here, with her out there with somebody else with the bottle to pluck a goddamn life for themselves out of the air. Richard, is that you in there? Annabelle? What are you doing in the ladies? Annabelle, it's the lock. It won't work. I'm serving my time, Annabelle. This is justice. Richard, we don't have time for that. There's a lot of topless ladies out here holding their bladders who don't have time for that. And I say, Annabelle, I lied. I don't want to write plays. I don't want to write plays at all. Nor novels, memoirs, short stories. I don't want to write any of it. But the thing is, I still feel compelled to do it. You know, something deep down tells me that I have to do it. Because if I don't do this, I'll never do anything else. Even if that means that in doing that, I'll never do anything near enough for her. But you know what? Maybe that's okay. And from the small margin under the door comes a glass bottle. A sort of liquidated angel shine. I mean, it's almost blinding. And etched into the label are the hyphenated words, Clubmate. CLUBMATE. Annabelle, what's this? The naked man suggested it, she says. I crack open the lid and drink what I will soon discover to be nothing short of a physiological phenomena. I mean, it's not that my heart and lungs are doing double time. How are they doing their own time? I can't keep up. My eyes are working both ways. I can see the back of my own eyes. Annabelle, I'm scared. No, the bottle, Richard. Use the Clubmate bottle. And from behind her, the universal cry. It's CLUBMARTYR. 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 And I'm hammering at the lock. I'm expecting it's going to blow up in my face like a hand grenade. But it's the lock that gives way. And as the door swings open, I lift it high and cry, CLUBMARTYR! Annabelle, let's go watch some football. Great, she says, after the toilet. We cram as many club martyrs as we can into Callum's bag. He says it's too heavy. He has a club martyr. It isn't heavy anymore. And as we're making our way to the fan park with the legions, it occurs to me just how young we all are. How actually history doesn't have to be just an individual endeavour. We're all taking one foot after the other, across the same path, across the same bridge, until we finally reach the umbrellas. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of umbrellas. I did not even know it was raining. And they're blocking that great good thing just beyond our reach. All those people whose ecstasy is being broadcast to screens around the world. I mean, that should be my ecstasy. But there's metal fences on either side and they say, no, sorry, you're full, turn back. This is one piece of history that isn't yours to chew. But I say, no, this is my fucking story now. And I'm willing the fences to go. And just as I look, I see a steward falling into one. And it's swaying and swaying and falling and falling. And in that chasm and in that silence, I hear myself cry, run. And you should have seen him try to catch me. But I was gone, bounding with that thing at my back which was trying to thunder through me, but I said to it, just you try. Just you fucking try. And I could end it there. Boy searches for story, story finds boy, the end, round of applause. But if we're going for honesty, what use would that be? It's 2016, and somebody somewhere is still looking for that something else. Not just the story. Not just the story. But you know, sometimes I find myself walking the 2-mile stretch that is the Kenilworth Road, and at a certain hour there's no traffic in that direction and no traffic in that direction. And it occurs to me that somebody somewhere has settled for somebody else. Quite a few people, in fact. And good for them. But these days, having not been settled for, I find myself walking that stretch, and in places I still hear what I think is a sound. A low hum. A tremor of sorts. Beyond the nothing in that direction and the nothing in that direction. Something spoken, perhaps, in a language I did not think I had the ear for. And I tell myself, you know, if it comes, I can be home in 15 and a half minutes. If I run 15 and a half minutes. One foot after the other. But back here, in reality, I am still. My ear planted to the ground. Thank you for listening.